Hey guys, welcome back. We made it. The 2024 hunting season is here. In Michigan, our season started today, October 1st, so I did want to take some time here at the beginning of the video to say good luck to all the hunters out there, not just the Michigan hunters, but all the hunters across the country. Hopefully you guys have a fun, successful, and safe hunting season this year. And in today's video, I did want to talk about my approach to the 2024 hunting season. For those of you guys that have been following the channel for a little while, my approach to the 2024 season isn't much different than my approach to 2023, 2022, or really any of the previous seasons. But for those of you guys that are new to the channel, I did want to take some time to talk about my approach to the hunting season and the strategies that we implement along the way. Now, if you're only going to take away one thing from this video on how we approach the hunting season, I'll just start the video out with what I feel like is the most important thing. And that's that we view the season, the whole hunting season, as a marathon, not a sprint. Basically what that means is we're not racing back to our favorite stand, the stand that we see the most bucks out of, opening day to try to put our target buck on the ground. We have more of a conservative approach and we're not that aggressive right out of the gate. We wait to push in until later in the season when the conditions are a little bit more favorable for those aggressive sits. We don't want to be blowing our property out right at the beginning of the hunting season. And again, I would say that's the most important thing overall to how we're approaching the hunting season, that it is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, there are going to be posts on social media, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube videos, showing guys that have harvested nice bucks early on in the hunting season. But those are the outliers. That's just a small percentage of the hunters that have been hitting the woods early on in the season. So even though guys are having success, we are going to see pictures of nice bucks on social media. Most of those older deer are not getting harvested in the early part of the hunting season. So when you see these pictures, and we're all going to see them, try your best to resist the temptation of pushing into your property early on in the season to hunt aggressively. There's a better chance you're going to do more harm than good. If we're not hunting aggressively in the early season, where are we hunting? Are we hunting the early season? And the answer is yes. We are definitely hunting the early part of the hunting season. We are just hunting less intrusively. So the stand locations that we're picking are not in the core of our property, they're more towards the perimeter. A lot of the stand locations that we're selecting early on in the season, like I said, are less intrusive. So they're either right off a road, we can kind of blow our scent right back to the road, or right by our cabin, blow our scent right back to the cabin, or maybe we are observing a food source. So we're sitting off of a food source a ways, maybe in an elevated blind, where we might not be getting as many shot opportunities, but we can observe that food plot to see if maybe we can get a pattern on one of our target bucks. We still want to be hunting the early season because anytime you're in the woods, there is a chance that your target buck might walk by. Now, that chance is a little bit lower in the early part of the season, but there is still a chance. We also want to make sure that we're hunting the early season, even if we know there's a low probability of seeing our target buck, because we want to go through the motions of hunting. It's been 10 months since most hunters have been in the woods, and you just want to make sure that you're ready for those higher probability hunts in late October and November by getting a few hunts under your belt in early October. Even if you don't think you're going to get an opportunity at your target buck early on in the season, you can use these early hunts kind of like a pre-game warm-up for a sport. Make sure that your alarm is set, make sure you have the timing down, you go through your scent control routine, you remember everything on the way to your stand, your arrows, your release. You don't want to walk out to your stand for the first time in late October, reach for your grunt call, and have it not be there. Another thing that we key on early on in the hunting season is focusing more on afternoon hunts and less on morning hunts. When we're targeting those older bucks in the neighborhood, pushing into those morning stand locations, pushing into those bedding areas, has a lot more risk associated with it in the early part of the hunting season. In early October through mid-October, a lot of these older bucks are getting back to their bedrooms well before daylight. So if we're pushing back into that area in the morning, we have a higher probability of spooking that deer as he's either walking back or he's already going to be there when we're walking in. So again, we have a higher chance of educating that deer, spooking that deer, as opposed to getting an opportunity. So early on in October, we don't hunt a lot of mornings, which means we do hunt more in the afternoon when those deer are leaving the bedding areas and traveling to their destination food source. I mentioned before that a lot of our early season stand locations are not that intrusive. So if we combine that with the fact that we want to hunt more in the afternoon, that would mean that a lot of our stand locations in the early season are hunting that bed to feed pattern, or trails that lead from bedding to a food source right off a road, or again right next to our cabin, where we can kind of blow our scent either back to the cabin or off of our property. So we're hunting away from bedding, but overlooking a trail that leads from bedding to one of their afternoon food sources. So that's our approach to the early part of the hunting season. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we view the season as a whole as a marathon, not a sprint. We are hunting, but we're not hunting that intrusively or aggressively. We're trying to stay out of the core while we're trying to pattern one of our target bucks. There's a good chance that we have him on camera. He's just moving around more at night. So we're just trying to wait until he slips up. And that actually kind of brings me to another point that I want to make in this video early on in the season, and that's to try to resist the temptation of pushing in hard when you start to see a nice buck on your cameras, but that picture is taken in the middle of the night. This scenario plays out with a lot of hunters every year. It happens to a lot of guys that I know. They'll get a great buck on camera. The picture will be taken at midnight or 2 in the morning. They get excited because they see that that deer is on their property, and they will go hunt hard for the next week trying to get that buck. And what happens most of the time is that buck just disappears. He's not seen on camera anymore on their property. He might come through a couple times during the rut, but basically that buck disappears and they're left asking why. Most likely what happened is that buck was using their property, but because it's an older deer, it was mostly moving at night early on in the hunting season. And when they pushed in to hunt that deer, they overpressured their property, educated that deer, and he found a new place to hang out for a majority of the fall. Hunting aggressively for a deer that wasn't yet huntable likely educated that deer and pushed him out. We had a very similar situation with our target deer last year. We had a buck that we were getting all kinds of pictures of, but again, a lot of those pictures were at night, 10 at night, midnight, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. We knew this deer was using our property. He was just using it mostly at night. We had an idea where he was bedded, but there wasn't really a great way to get in there. But if we would have pushed in hard to hunt that deer as soon as we got pictures of him, we probably would have pushed him out. We probably wouldn't have gotten an opportunity at this deer. We would have likely educated this deer, and he would have found a new place to hang out instead of our property. Instead, we waited it out. And I'm not going to say it was easy. It was really hard to not go after this deer, but we waited it out. We waited until this deer told us that he was going to be huntable by moving more in daylight. So again, I know it can be hard, and every scenario will be a little bit different, based on where the picture was taken, what time the picture was taken, but try your best to not push in and hunt aggressively for a buck early on in the season when you're only getting trail camera pictures of this deer at night. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video on our approach to the 2024 hunting season. Just remember, the season is a marathon, not a sprint. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.